Good afternoon or good morning, wherever you might be from. I hope you can hear me. If you could put one on the chat and let me know if you can hear me okay, that would be really useful. Make sure the audio is coming through all right. And you're going to have to excuse this boom. I might adjust it every now and again because that's one of the things that went a bit wrong this morning. One of many things that kind of going a bit wrong. So let me just get this adjusted. You can hear me okay? Good, good, good. So thank you very much, Atlas. Thank you very much. Hello, Dart. And Commander 401 was here a little while ago. Loud and clear, Conrad, Kevin, thank you very much. That's excellent. Very, very good. Not too loud, I hope, no? Or I'm often accused of shouting too much. All good? Okay, cool, cool. Well, I've had something of a hectic morning this morning. Hey, where's Wally? How's it going? Good to see you here. I don't often see you in my streams. It's good to see you. Everything's fine. Well, hectic morning this morning. I had all kinds of cool things that I was going to do for you today, this morning, before the launch and during the launch. Unfortunately, I haven't had time because I turned my computer on this morning. I was just doing things, and all of a sudden, blue screen of death. First of all, then I got that back sorted out, and then all of a sudden, my graphics card decided it wasn't going to function anymore. Turning it off and on, all trying different things. Ended up getting it onto my table, taking out the graphics card, cleaned it all up, taken all the dust off it, plugged it all back in again. It all seemed to be working fine. I was just getting that all tested up and all the rest of it as well, making sure that's 100%. And then I get a knock on the door, and the landlord's there. He wants to sign the new documents this morning, of all times. So, right, okay, let's get that sorted. So that took faffing about with documentation and all the rest of it as well. So time I'll get him sorted out. That was another 45 minutes or so gone. And then I was just going to start again, and then the cat was sick all over the floor. So 2 hours of preparation that I had things that I had planned. I didn't have time. But don't worry. We have a show. I promise you, we have a show. We have a launch. And we have a launch of the Falcon Heavy, which is going to be absolutely epic this morning. So who else is arriving? Timbo Turtle, good to see you. Don't tell us the things you do in front of the computer first thing in the morning. Rightio. And we've got, where's Wally? Atlas. Mipic, good to see you. You're not here. Okay, you're not here. Right, fine. I never saw you. Commander 401, good morning. George Hans again. Hello, good morning. Good to see you. Dart mentioned as well. Rich 901 just joined us. Hello. Welcome. It's good to see you. But as I said, don't worry, all the things that have happened, we still have a show. It is going to go on. It is going to go on. So we have a launch day with, as I said, the Falcon Heavy. Where's Wally? Tim Dodds is almost crying. 4 miles from the launch and 4 miles of fog. No way. No way. Oh, no. Poor Tim Dodds. I feel for him. I really do. That's not fair. 4 miles of fog. Let's see if we just get this. Can I try and get these chat pop-ups working? Doesn't seem to want to function this morning. Not to worry if it doesn't. Oh, it's because I haven't got it set up. Don't worry about it. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I can still read you anyway. Kevin Conrad says, about time the most powerful operation rocket on Earth awakens. Indeed it is. From its 3-year slumber, of course, let's hope it's not the most powerful for long. Cough, SLS, Starship, indeed, yeah. I think Starship beats SLS by a little bit, I think, if I remember rightly. Going by statistics and stuff as well. So, yeah, good to see this back. 2019, we saw this fly last. So those of you who are uninitiated, basically Falcon Heavy is a, how can I put it? 3 Falcon 9s strapped together. I think is probably the want of a better word. I think, isn't it really? Modified slightly. So we have 2 side boosters and a core stage. Okay, so what we're actually going to see is we're going to see 2 side boosters. Once they separate, we're going to actually see them land back on Vandenberg Air Force Base. It's lifting off from Kennedy Air Force Base this morning from Pad 39A. It is a classified payload in the most part. There are some CubeSats on board. I'm not sure whether we're going to see those deploy or not. We probably might see the fairing deploy, but we might not see the payload itself because it's a classified payload for the United States Space Force this morning. So we may not see that at all. So who else we've got coming in? Ivor Kunn, oh, good to see you. You love Falcon Heavy. Yeah, I think we all do, don't we? We all love Falcon Heavy. How long to launch? It is launching in about 40 minutes or so, give or take, 41 minutes. Yeah. So what I thought I'd do is I will go through, I was planning on getting a video finished this morning. It was a quick 5-minute video of the events, what's going to happen during the launch and what have you as well. But unfortunately, I didn't get time to do this. So what I'll do, I'll just quickly talk through with you. We've got plenty of time because SpaceX stream has not started as of yet. So look, no, it hasn't started yet. So we've got time to do that. So I thought I'd go through that with you this morning, if that's okay. Just really, it's mostly for the uninitiated. Most of you might know what's going to happen, but for the uninitiated, maybe not so much. So what's going to happen is, so at around about 9:41 Eastern, we're going to get a liftoff. And the first thing you're going to hear in 1 minute and 11 seconds in here, you're going to see my pop-ups come up with this side of the screen, pop up here. You can hear max Q. For those that don't know, max Q basically means that the rocket is at its maximum of aerodynamic pressure. So as the rocket accelerates, obviously aerodynamic pressures are increasing. But similarly, on the flip side, as you go with altitude, the thinner the atmosphere, so those aerodynamic pressures reduce. Okay, so at some point you're going to get a point where it's at its maximum. So what happened is, just before max Q is announced, they'll throttle the engines back just a little bit, just to reduce down and to flatten out that curve of aerodynamic pressures. So that'll pop up. You'll see that pop up at the top of your screen there about 10 seconds before, but it'll literally pop up and I'll get rid of it. I don't want you distracted by too many things. Okay, so that's 1 minute 11. And next thing you're going to see, oops, let's get the right thing up. Yeah, there we go. So next thing you're going to see at 2 minutes and 24 seconds is the side boosters cutoff, or BECO, you might hear call out. And that's at 2 minutes 24 seconds. And those two side boosters are literally going to separate from the main core of the Falcon Heavy. See what's going on in the chat. Not the best condition for a nice view. No, I've heard there's fog there and what have you. I haven't had a chance to have a look properly this morning because it's been so hectic. Yeah, exactly. So I see what Snark's just put, but it's just no, not side boobs. No, definitely not. No, we're not going to see any side boobs today. No, this is not that kind of show, Snark. Not that sort of launch. Atlas says, I was the SpaceX launch last Thursday launch. You should feel the rumbling on your body. Crazy. Yeah, I'm sure it is. That's on my bucket list to do things. We don't get to see very many launches here. In fact, we don't get to see any here in the UK. So that's on my bucket list to come to Florida one day and see a launch. So yeah, so that's, yeah, so 2 minutes 24 seconds. Again, you're going to see my pop up at the top of the screen there, pop up just about 10 seconds before, and then it will disappear just as a little reminder of what's coming up next. Okay, so the next thing you're going to hear or see as well is you're going to see the side boosters separate, as I said before. I mean, we've had that one, haven't we? Hang on a minute. Oh yeah, that was side booster cutoff. The engines were cut off before the separation will occur a few seconds later at 2 minutes 28. Yeah, sorry, just getting myself confused there. See how flustered I am after this morning. Oh dear, so hectic. Okay, so what's going to happen is at 2 minutes 45 seconds, those after that separation, the side boosters are going to do. They're literally going to turn around. Okay. With reaction control thrusters, and then they're going to use their engines to do a boost back burn. So they're literally going to go back the other way, the opposite way from the rocket was going. Okay, amazing, I know. Okay, so to head back into land, to land at Vandenberg Air Force Base. Okay, not far from Kennedy. Okay, so that's going to happen. So that'll start at 2 minutes and 45 seconds. Sorry. Okay, next thing we're going to see is the main engine cutoff, or MECO is the thing you're going to hear. So that's the main engine, that core main engines, the 9 engines at the bottom are going to cut off, because what you're going to have next is you're going to have, soon after that, is core stage separation. And that's where that central core stage is going to separate from the upper stage. Where we've got all the payload and all the rest of it as well. Okay, so that's no longer leading. Now, the core stage is not going to be recovered today. We're not going to see that land. Okay, that's going to be disposed of. In other words, it's going to land in the ocean somewhere. I think probably in the Pacific Ocean, going by the velocity and the trajectory and all the rest of it as well. Possibly in the Atlantic. I'm not 100% sure about that. Okay, so we're not going to see that one land, but we are going to see the 2 side boosters land. Okay, so that's what we're all here for mostly, isn't it? You know, that's what we all want to see. And I certainly do as well, so we're not too worried about that. Previously, before, you might have seen in the intro animation that I did there, as that was the core stage landing on the barge, but we're not going to see that. For whatever reason, they decided they're not going to use that. It could very well be because of the velocity that it's actually going, because they're deploying the satellites at a geostationary orbit, which is a very high orbit. 35,000 kilometers or so, something like that as well. So velocities involved are very, very high. Okay, what are we going to see next? So look down here. We have, second stage engine startup. So then the second stage is then going to take over, okay, to get it to the orbit that it actually needs. So that's what we're going to see. And that will occur at 4 minutes and 4 seconds. And shortly after that, you're going to see then is fairing deployment. Now, we might see the fairings come away. That's the part that's actually protecting the main cargo. But we may not actually see what's inside, because it's classified and it's for the United States Space Force. We probably won't see that, sadly. We might not see any of the actual cargo actually deployed today, because of that. It's classified. Okay, and then shortly after that, you're going to see the side boosters entry burn start. Now, this is when it starts getting pretty interesting, okay, at 6 minutes and 48 seconds. Okay, so that's the entry burn for the side boosters to slow down as they're going into the atmosphere, okay, because they're coming in really freaking fast, to say the least. Okay, so that's at 6 minutes, 48 seconds. And then shortly after that, we're going to see at 8 minutes, and this is the exciting part, we're going to see the side boosters landing burn occur, and then what you're going to see is the landing legs will then deploy, and it'll come in. Hopefully then, fingers crossed, we're going to see a nice side boosters landing, and that's what we're all here for mostly, I'm sure. Okay, so that's what we're going to see today. So you're going to see these little pop-ups. SpaceX are pretty good. They do tend to call out their different events that are occurring each time as well. Oh, Professor Bell, beg your pardon, is here as well. Thank you very much for coming. Excellent. Oh, we've got a nice little crowd here today. Angry Doggy, thank you very much for coming. You're all welcome. Mippet as well. Rich 901. Yep, excellent. Thank you very much all for coming. It's really, really good. Anyway, let's see what is going on with SpaceX. Okay, well, looks like they're starting up, so I'm going to get things prepared for that. And I will hand over to them, because I'm sure you've had enough of me waffling on. Nobody wants to listen to me for too long. Let's get this overlay sorted out.
In fact, the engines produce so much power that we don't even run them at full thrust all at once. We do that after liftoff.
I trust.
Now, after liftoff, at about 2.5 minutes into flight, those 2 side boosters will separate from the center core and come back to Earth for simultaneous landings at landing zone 1 and landing zone 2, which we have a beautiful view there on your screen.
Well, that's all right. As long as
if successfully recovered, the side boosters will be refurbished and used in a future national security space launch.
Back to you after.
Upon side booster separation, the center core will keep firing for about 90 seconds before shutting down its engines, then perform a standard stage separation from the second stage. We will not be attempting to land our center core today as the mission requires more performance, meaning in order to get our payload where it needs to go for today's mission, the center core will burn the fuel that we would typically use for recovery. For those of you looking closely, even though it is a little foggy, that's why you don't see any landing legs or grid fins on the center core. You'll probably get a better view of that after liftoff. Now moving up to the second stage, once the first stage and second stage separate, it will propel our payload to its intended orbit. At our customer's request, we will not be showing views of stage 2, so immediately after the Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage fires up, we'll be directing all of our attention to the landing of our side boosters. Now, above the second stage is where our payload is safely enclosed inside the fairing. The fairing protects the payload from aerothermal loads, heating, and contamination during ascent. Once we reach the vacuum of space, we will jettison the fairing as the second stage continues its journey to orbit. We will be attempting to recover the fairing halves today with our recovery vessel, Doug. As I mentioned earlier, today's launch is USSF-44, and that's for the national security. It's a national security space launch mission for the United States Space Force. Now let's learn a little bit more from our customer about the mission at hand.
We depend on space every day to support our way of life, our supply chain, financial systems, weather tracking, and power grids, as well as air, land, and maritime infrastructure. Our U.S. military is the strongest and best equipped force in the world. In the heavily contested space domain, Space Systems Command leads a team of roughly 15,000 guardians, airmen, civilians, and contractors. Headquartered in El Segundo, California, our unbeatable team operates from multiple locations across the U.S. and includes 2 space launch deltas, SLD-45 at Patrick Space Force Base and SLD-30 at Vandenberg Space Force Base. Through unity of effort across the space acquisition enterprise, Space Systems Command delivers to warfighters integrated and resilient space capabilities through 5 program executive offices. Assured access to space, procures launch services and delivers on-orbit capabilities faster and more frequently than ever before, while sustaining ranges for the United States Space Force and commercial partners. Battle Management Command, Control, and Communication delivers tactical and operational command and control capabilities to warfighters, facilitating timely and quality battle space decisions for the joint all-domain fight. Space domain awareness and combat power maximizes the full characterization of space using a wide range of multi-domain assets by rapidly detecting potential and real threats to our nation and allies, which enables decisive action in the space domain. Communications and positioning, navigation, and timing ensures the delivery of resilient capabilities across the acquisition lifecycle, from prototypes to systems on the production line to systems our warfighters have been operating for years. Space sensing delivers space-based battle space awareness through missile warning, tracking, environmental monitoring, and tactical intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. Our adversaries fully intend to disrupt, degrade, and destroy the U.S. and our allies' ability to access and operate in space. Not on our watch. Space Systems Command is focused on creating and sustaining resilient lethality in space through systems integration, unity of effort, and digital engineering ecosystems. At Space Systems Command, space starts here.
We're now at almost T-minus 6 minutes and 30 seconds, and the SpaceX team continues to count down for launch of our 3rd operational Falcon Heavy flight, and all systems remain go. At this point in time, fuel load is complete on the 2nd stage as well as one of the side boosters. And there we just heard the call out that the fuel load is now complete on the other side booster as well as the center core. Now, following a successful static fire last Thursday, Falcon Heavy rolled out to the pad with a payload yesterday and went vertical about 6 hours later. You can see a time lapse of that there on your screen. Before we began the webcast today, the SpaceX launch director pulled the members of the launch team and got a go for prop loading and launch, which, as I just mentioned, we're currently undergoing. We're loading propellant on all three first stage boosters and the second stage. Now, you may be able to hear the live rocket sounds from our launch pad. The pops and hissings that you hear are from the propellant loading, as well as the launch mount and strong back that the propellant is flowing through. Falcon Heavy uses two propellants, a refined form of kerosene called RP1, or Rocket Propellant 1, and that's the fuel, and LOX, or liquid oxygen, for the oxidizer. An oxidizer is a type of chemical that a fuel requires in order to burn. The liquid oxygen is chilled below its boiling point so that it has a much greater amount of mass per volume. Basically, we can load more of it into the rocket. Our fuel is RP1, essentially a purified kerosene. It is safe, easily available, and has a lot of history. As a fun fact, the Saturn V first stage, flown from this very pad for moon missions, also used liquid oxygen and kerosene.
Falcon Heavy tanks are pressing for strong back retract.
And then we just heard the call out. We are preparing for that strong back retraction. Now, in addition to the two propellants I mentioned, we also use the chemical TTEB, or triethyl aluminum and triethyl borane, as an ignition source. The combustion of RP1 and LOX is what makes the rocket go up, and it's the TTEB that basically sets the match for that propellant mix.
Strong back lower has begun.
And we can see there on your screen shortly that we will begin to see that strong back begin to retract away from the fairing. In preparation for that retraction, the clamp arms around the second stage opened, and that allows the strong back to recline away from the vehicle. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this is our first Falcon Heavy flight in 3 years, and a lot will happen in the first 4 minutes of flight. First, we will light the two side boosters, followed by the center core. Then, about 40 seconds after liftoff, we will decrease power on the two side boosters in preparation for max Q, after which Falcon Heavy will then throttle back.
NY LOX load is complete.
So there we heard the call out that one of these side boosters is now complete with its LOX load, fully loaded with all of its propellants. Then it looks like we can see that strong back retraction happening now.
NY LOX load is complete.
We are now fully loaded with LOX on the other side booster. So 2 minutes into flight, we will again reduce thrust on the two side boosters, this time to decrease forces on the rocket structure overall. The vehicle at that point in time will be much lighter, but the thrust remains constant. At 2.5 minutes into flight, we fully turn off the side boosters with the booster engine cutoff, or BECO. This pneumatic
Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
And there we heard the call out, stage 1 LOX load is complete. So at this point in time, both side boosters and the center core are now fully loaded with its liquid oxygen and RP1. Once clear of the side boosters, the center core will throttle up to full power and until the center core shuts down with main engine cutoff, or MECO, and then separate from the second stage around the 4-minute mark. From that point on, very similar to Falcon 9 mission, side boosters will be making their way back to Earth for recovery. The fairing will separate, and the second stage will take the USSF-44 payload out into space. Just as a quick reminder, at the request of our customer, we won't be showing views of the payload, so we'll be ending the webcast just after our side boosters make their way back to land at LZ1 and LZ2, and that will be a little after the T+8-minute mark into flight.
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
So there we heard the call out, stage 2 LOX load is complete. So at this point in time, Falcon Heavy is now fully loaded with all of its propellants. As I've mentioned before in previous webcasts, launch is hard. Falcon Heavy is no exception. We're essentially counting down 3 rockets simultaneously. So our team is going to be conservative in case anything pops up in the last minutes of the countdown. In addition to the fog around the launch pad, we can see some of the white clouds there around the vehicle. Totally normal. That's just the liquid oxygen, basically
ground gas closeouts.
Vaporizing as it comes into contact with the ambient air. Now that those closeouts are complete, as we just heard that call out, we should see more of that. Next, we'll hear the call out that Falcon 9 is in startup.
Falcon Heavy is in startup.
All right, at this point in time, Falcon Heavy's onboard flight computers have taken over the launch countdown. Great view of the base of Falcon Heavy there.
MD, LD, go for launch.
LD, this is the MD. The MD is go for launch.
And there we heard the final go for launch.
T-minus 30 seconds and counting.
Let's listen in to the final count as Falcon Heavy gets ready to go to space once again.
T-minus 15 seconds and counting. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, liftoff. Vehicle is pitching downrange. M1D chamber pressure is nominal.
Headed to space. The throttle down in preparation for max Q, moment of peak mechanical stress on the rocket.
Falcon Heavy is supersonic.
There we just heard the call out that the vehicle is now traveling faster than the speed of sound. What a beautiful sight.
Max Q.
All right, there we just heard the call out. That is the moment of peak mechanical stress on the rocket. M1D engines throttling back up. A beautiful sight to see Falcon Heavy flying once again. Shortly we'll hear the call out for MVAC chill, indicating that the second stage is prepping the MVAC engine.
Vehicle is following a nominal trajectory.
We will flow a little bit of the super chilled liquid oxygen through the turbo pumps on that MVAC in preparation for the full flow of the super chilled propellant. Shots there of each side booster on the right-hand side of your screen. Next event will be booster engine cutoff, or BECO. That'll be followed by stage separation of side boosters, side booster boost back burn, center core main engine cutoff. We are about 10 seconds away from the booster separation.
Side core shutdown. Booster separation confirmed.
And there you can see and heard it by the incredible excitement within the crowd behind me. Successful separation of the side boosters.
Boost sector startup.
There we can see 3 engines on each side booster have relit for their boost back burn. At this point in time, both side boosters are returning.
All vehicles are following nominal trajectories.
Good news there, both side boosters and the center core, everything looking good. Side boosters are returning to the coast of Florida, now under the power of 3 engines. That's a view there of the center core. Coming up, 3 events happening in rapid succession. We'll have the conclusion of the side booster boost back burn, followed by main engine cutoff, as well as stage separation of that center core. As a reminder, per request of our customer, we won't be showing second stage views after second engine start 1. Additionally, our center core, or stage 1, the one you see there, is expendable today, so we are not recovering this booster.
backburn shutdown. Nico. Stage separation confirmed.
There you heard the call out and saw on your screen we had side boost back burn conclusion, as well as the main engine cutoff and separation for that center core, and we heard call out of second engine start 1. At this point in time, with that call out,
separation confirmed.
We will wrap our coverage pertaining to the second stage, keeping our focus on the side boosters.
Continue to follow nominal trajectories.
Which you see there, unfortunately, looks like
Acquisition of signal, Bermuda.
the cameras on those side boosters are a little fogged over. We heard confirmation of successful fairing separation. While second stage continues on its journey, the fairing halves will fall back to Earth, where we will attempt to recover them using our recovery vessel, Doug. As a reminder, today we'll be attempting to recover the 2 Falcon Heavy side boosters on land. You can sort of make out some cloud coverage there in the background camera. We'll bring that back to you whenever we're able. Now, in just a few minutes, the side boosters will execute an entry burn followed by a landing burn. Both burns are meant to slow the side boosters down rapidly before landing. At the time of separation, the side boosters were traveling slow enough to turn around and make their way back to land at our side-by-side landing pads. If we have successful landings today, it will mark the 150th and 151st successful landing of an orbital class rocket. As I mentioned earlier, center core is going to be expended, and we are not attempting to recover it. This allows us to utilize...
All vehicles continue to follow nominal trajectories.
Allows us to utilize all the propellant on board and deliver peak performance for the payload delivery. On the left-hand side of your screen is a live view of Hawthorne Mission Control here at SpaceX headquarters. We're about 30 seconds away from the entry burn for the 2 side boosters. There on the top and bottom of the right-hand side of your screen. Standing by for side booster entry burn.
Booster entry burns have started.
There we heard the call out that the booster entry burn has begun.
Booster entry burn shutdown.
Looks like the ice on those cameras are now clearing.
EY and NY FTS have safed. All vehicles continue to follow nominal trajectories.
So that re-entry burn has concluded. We're expecting the landing burn to begin in about 30 seconds. The entry burn intended to slow the vehicles down significantly as they re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. Amazing tracking cam views of the boosters as they return to landing zone 1 and 2. We can see the grid fins there.
Both side boosters transonic.
Stage 2 FTS is saved. Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
We can see those grid fins steering the boosters for a precise landing. Again, we're attempting
Booster
landing. Landing zone 1 and 2. There we just heard sonic booms. And there you have it. As indicated by the enormous cheers, we have successfully landed both Falcon Heavy side boosters at landing zone 1 and landing zone 2. What an incredible sight.
Nominal parking orbit.
With these 2 side boosters, this marks the 150th and 151st overall successful landing of an orbital class rocket. This is the 21st landing at landing zone 1 and the 4th landing at landing zone 2. And with successful confirmation of our side boosters landing, that will bring today's webcast to a close. We'd like to thank the United States Space Force for entrusting us with today's mission. Thank you to the Range and FAA for licensing today's launch. And we'd like to thank all of our viewers for tuning in for an exciting morning. Now, if you're interested, head over to our website and social media platforms for updates on our next missions and milestones. Hope to see you soon. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Oh, let me just turn my streams down so I'm not hearing myself. Oh, there we go. That's better. Sorry about that. Oh, well, there you go. I mean, it's a bit of a foggy day, which is a bit of a shame, wasn't it? But we still saw some landing. So perfect landing, absolutely spot on. So there we go. Yeah, and it's a pity we can't see the rest of it. But as I said, classified payload, and that's going to be the same with the other ones launching next year as well. SpaceX have got 3 more contracts to perform with United States Space Force. I think there's one in February, if I'm going from memory. I'm not 100% sure, and a few more spread out throughout the whole year as well. So, but yeah, I want to thank everybody for coming. Quite a short one this time round, a bit shorter than I expected. I had all kinds of different cool things planned as well, but sadly, because it was so hectic this morning, didn't have a chance. But hey, you know, life gets in the way sometimes. So there it is. If you want to use this video, if anybody wants to use any of this footage, please do. If you want to use those SpaceX's, it's all free to use. I've got it in Creative Commons, and so use away, not a problem. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to say goodbye and thank you very, very much for coming. And if you're new to the channel, please don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and you'll be notified when I upload more videos. And also be useful as well. Comment below. Let me know how I got on. If anything I should do the better, or anything that wasn't quite right, then let me know about that as well. And just let me know what you thought of the whole thing. So without further ado, thanks for coming. Take care.